Hey, Shapagunjani, this is KO, Mr. Cash Time, this kind of God. And right now you're checking out Joburg Today. Let's go.
Building your profile is work in progress for most of us because we are constantly engaging on social media platforms to ensure ongoing interest in what we are offering to the world on the business or social side. Well, social media allows us that opportunity to integrate who we are with what we are offering to the world. Our stories can inspire and even draw more business opportunities to us in the process of just sharing views. But what would be some of the most important considerations to make when creatively engaging with others via our profiles? Dr. John Demartini joins us in the studio to discuss this aspect of being a successful entrepreneur. Welcome again. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
What would you say from your point of view is important to ensure a successful online business profile?
Well, we've been exploring, I think, all the different avenues that are out there like that, and looking at what's the most time-effective, cost-effective things. But the bottom line is there's certain principles that don't change.
Sure.
And that is that if you don't meet people's needs, they don't engage. So you have to meet what their needs are. That could be entertainment needs. That could be informative educational needs. It could be curiosity needs. It could be sensational needs. It could be something that, oh, I never thought about that, shock needs. Mm-hmm. But whatever you do, there has to be something that meets the needs to get them engaged and to make them want to participate in social media and to share your message with people.
Sure.
And that's something that, and in my organization, we've constantly are tweaking and keeping up with because it's changing. It's like a moving target sometimes. Mm-hmm. But if you don't meet their needs, what they're intrigued by, they cut out. With social media, it can be off in seconds.
How has social media per se, because you've been in business for many years, changed how you actually meet those needs, changed how you market the messages? Because hard selling certainly doesn't work much anymore, especially on social media. People are there to chat socially,
yes,
to engage in a less formal basis.
Well, in my situation, because I may be a little bit different than some people, I'm using every form of media that there is. I mean, I do radio, I do television, I do writings, newspapers and magazines, podcasts, webinars, social medias, YouTubes, Facebook. I mean, somehow or another, I'm exposing myself in every possible way that's available, directly or indirectly. And that builds up eventually a followership, and that allows you to have some influence, and it increases the probability of products, services, ideas to be able to be used and shared. And I think if a person goes out there and expects something overnight, unless it's sensational, it's not likely to spread very rapidly. But if you just stay with something methodically and consistently at going out and being of service to people and meeting people's needs and getting feedback and watching what they're responding to and trying to meet their needs, social media can be a very powerful way of reaching the world. And I don't know of any other way today other than that. It's taken over some of the other mediums.
And the cost is low as well, using social media.
It's cost effective. I mean, now everybody can participate. Everybody's global today. Whether they like it or not, they're global. And I believe you have to give yourself permission to do that, be global. Mm-hmm. If you think of it purely local, you're probably going to have a targeted thing that's maybe too much. Yeah. Today, you have the ability to sell anything anywhere.
But that's also a challenge, John, because you need to capture eyeballs. Everybody's vying for attention on social media. Facebook has, nearly 2 billion subscribers as well. So what would you say is key to ensuring that you reach your target audience?
Well, you need to define who that is. So you define what their primary means and needs are so you can meet those needs. One of the things that we've done is we'll go to newspapers and magazines who are constantly trying to pulse what the needs of society are and look at what their articles are about, what the topics that they're addressing, et cetera. And then we'll think of what can we do that could be contributive to that and serve that need. And then we try to write articles, or we try to say things, do things, or whatever to meet a need. If I am successful at doing it, you can see an immediate result. And you start to see some impact and some incremental growth in it. If I don't meet it, you don't see much of a response at all. So I have the accountability as an entrepreneur to care enough about the customer, which is human beings, worldwide now, to keep meeting their needs and keep adjusting to what those needs are.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to adapt to it, you're likely to become stagnant. So you constantly have to meet needs. That doesn't mean you sacrifice yourself to meet those needs only. You'll still do it in your own niche where you're inspired, but you have to be willing to find out what those responses are, and they are changing, and it's changing more rapidly than the older mediums.
Sure. And in this age, John, where I think just about everybody wants to be media savvy in one way or another to ensure that they can reach their target audience, how important is it to ensure authenticity, to ensure that your messages are authentic, that it reflects you and your life and what you stand for, and to avoid getting caught up in this frenzy of putting yourself out there so you have more likes, you have more comments, you're a little bit more popular?
Well, it's kind of like a dating site. I'll use a dating site. If you go out there and falsely advertise only the one side of you, when they actually go on the date, they're going to be shocked.
True.
And so all facades eventually are found. So the authenticity of being yourself is freeing, because you don't have to put on a facade. But if you put on a facade, eventually people are going to find the other side. And the very thing that you get a surge of becomes now the opposite side. It's like heroes become villains. So I'd rather just know that I'm a hero villain. I'd rather just put it all out there and let people know that, I'm controversial. I'd rather put both sides out there, so I don't have to put on a facade anymore. And I don't have to get caught by hiding this other side. I'd rather just expose it. And some people are afraid to do that, because our animal nature, our lower, more primitive part of our brain, which I call the animal brain, is wanting to avoid pain and seek pleasure. And our more advanced part of the brain embraces pain and pleasure in the pursuit of a purpose. So if we're basically trying to get pleasure, we're going to want pride without shame. We're going to want to look good and fame without the challenges. And this traps us, because the second we have that, we have new accountabilities. The second you become very known on that social media, you're also now, people are looking for things to attack. If you get into cockiness and pride and exaggerate yourself, you automatically attract the tall poppy syndrome to bring you back down, and they're looking for the other side. If you're not prepared to face that and own that and show that, it'll knock you off the center. So wiser to go out there with the authentic self and let people know who you are and not try to facade it. And actually they're more engaged in it and they're more believable, and they feel that they can relate to you more by doing that. So it's better to be authentic.
What I get from your social media interactions is you. Essentially, it's messages of wisdom. Whatever comes up, you just write it. It's just there. It's just all John Demartini. It's exactly you when I meet you in person as well.
Yeah, I'm what you see is what you get kind of thing. I'm controversial. I mean, people come to the breaks and they go, "My God, you're outrageous." Sometimes I go, "Yes, I'm outrageous at times," but I'd rather be me. I don't want to go through my life and not be me, because everybody wants to be loved and appreciated for who they are. And if you try to put a facade on that, you're not even in love with yourself. You'll be trying to get rid of half of yourself. And so the world out there is going to reflect what you're doing inside. So it's better to just be yourself. And the magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll create or impose on yourself. And in social media, some of the reality shows are not even real. I mean, I was involved in trying to film a reality show, and they wanted me to sign a contract one time and said, "Well, if it doesn't sell, we're going to put in actors." I said, "If you're going to put in actors, I'm not going to do the show. This is my life's work. This has got to be real out there. And I'll get the results. I'll help people. And I don't want a facade. I want an artificial person saying, 'Oh, you helped me.' I want the real thing, because that's way more meaningful and more fulfilling than put a facade up in an act."
But be outrageous authentically as well.
Yeah. And
not for the sake
yourself.
Of being outrageous.
Yeah, because what it is, you give people permission to be themselves that way.
Sure.
And I think that's the real social media. Because if you look I was in a photo shoot at one time. I was doing a photo from photos. And they had just done J-Lo at this photo shoot. So Jennifer Lopez had been just through a photo shoot like 2 hours earlier.
Okay.
And I'm in there, and they had all the raw cuts, and then they showed the editing for the magazines. And it was really interesting. I got to see the before and after.
Awesome.
And he goes, "Yeah, if we put this out there, people wouldn't be enamored by her." And so because they literally trimmed things off, and they did things that made her, took out
blemishes.
colorations.
Okay.
And I thought,
well,
I don't want
comforting
that.
To
I
know,
told them I don't want that. I want them to see me.
Okay.
I'd rather have the accountability of looking great because I'm looking that way than just covered up. Because when they actually meet you, they're going to be disappointed. They're going to find out, whoa, it's not what I expected.
Because at the end of the day, it's about what value you have to offer, right?
Yeah. And they'll get caught in the facade. And anytime you compare yourself to a fantasy, you're going to beat yourself up, because you can't compete with a fantasy, but you can compete with a real person. You can actually realize that, oh, that's who they are. I remember seeing one time, there was, in the University of Houston, there was a penthouse magazine girl that was coming and visiting there, and all the guys wanted to see this girl, and so they were giving out these magazines, right? And all these guys go, wow, this is a hot chick. When she was there, it didn't match the picture, and people were let down because it was completely airbrushed, fixed up, and everything else. And there was a big letdown. And I thought, if they can't sell it by being real, that lady's now going to have to face the other side, rejection. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a good lesson for me to see that, because the fantasy wasn't lived up to, and there was a letdown from that. So I'd rather just be me. I found that that's way more sustainable and predictable and more stable.
And then it just inadvertently creates more insecurities as well.
Yeah.
And then yourself, if you're comfortable about being photoshopped all the time, right?
Yeah, I was at a seminar in Dallas, Texas many years ago, 33 years ago, doing a presentation to 1,200 doctors. And they asked me to speak on success, health, and happiness. And I got up and I said, first of all, I want to tell you that there's moments when I feel successful, there's moments when I feel like a failure, and they're both moments that I need to guide me to set authentic goals that are real for me. And so I don't stay all feeling successful all the time. I feel up and down, and my volatilities may not be extreme, but I have both of them. And I shared that with them. They were kind of like, oh, you're not always feeling successful? Because they had a fantasy. And I'm not always feeling happy. I have ups and downs there, and I don't always feel well. I sometimes have volatilities in my health. And I shared that whole thing with them. And 75 people out of 1,200 people walked out. I didn't come for this. I wanted to know one-sidedness. But I also had 75 people at the end of the program come up and put their arms around me and say, thank you. I've been judging myself, comparing myself to these people who I thought were one-sided. Mm-hmm. And I thought you were that way. By you telling me that you had both sides, it actually made me feel more confident to go out and go pursue it, because I thought there was something wrong with me. But there wasn't wrong with them. But the other people were holding on to the fantasy and wanted the fantasy. And the addiction to fantasy can create a lot of setbacks for people. Sure. So authenticity, I think, exemplification of authenticity is actually an essential component in society and to real achieving, my opinion.
Sure, John. I'm just curious to find out, when it comes to your business profile and the way in which you market, what value you're bringing to the world, how did you go about doing it before the global village, as a result of technological innovation and development, exploded?
Well, when I first opened up my business, I started a business when I was 9, but when I started my professional business, I was 27. And I literally went door to door. I met this senator, and I asked him, how did he become senator out of all the people? And he says, I didn't have the budget to go on media and everything else. I just went door to door and shook hands with 2 million people.
Try doing that today, though.
Yeah, no. But he says, I went out and shook hands with everybody. And he says, and I won the race because they knew me. And I thought, okay, that's a lot. I mean, he would literally go out to a factory of 1,000 people and shake everybody's hands out there and go to the next factory, and hour by hour. It was very tedious. And the media definitely allows us to do that more effectively. But he still got down there, and he was in the grassroots. So when I first started, there was TV and radio, and there was magazines and newspapers. But when I first did it, I literally went door to door through the neighborhoods and introduced myself to thousands of people. And asked them what they were looking for in healthcare, asked them what they needed. And I wrote it down and I listened. And so when I did that, then I used the radio, television, newspapers, and magazine articles next with a media company. And because I had done that, I built up a following that way. And when I opened up the business, I didn't struggle like a lot of people did. Because instead of hoping that somebody's going to recognize you, putting a sign out or something, I actually went out and tried to care about people. And I found that gave me my competitive advantage. Mm-hmm. And still today, when I'm doing seminars, sometimes people whoosh the seminar guy off the stage and out of there as a celebrity or whatever. I'll stay there sometimes. You see me at the seminar, mm-hmm. sometimes there for 2 hours. Yeah. Answering questions, solving problems or whatever. And they say, well, you're not supposed to do that. That's not wise to do as a celebrity. I said, yeah, but I'm not here to that. And my job is to make a difference in these people's lives. Mm-hmm. I find that that's what builds a profile.
So networking is still very important.
I still network today. Yeah. I'm the kind of guy that will go into a new city, and I'm speaking the next day maybe, or the next few days, and I'll walk in and I'll look around in the convention halls and all the seminar rooms, just in case there's other opportunities for me to speak.
That's fantastic.
And people think you're nuts, you know. I said, no, I do it because I'm on a mission to share messages. And if I see a possibility there where I can make a difference in that group, I grab it.
So seize all opportunities to put yourself out there and sell what value you offer.
I used to say when I was in healthcare, I used to say, the more people I meet and greet, the more I get to treat. I remember one time I went into a mall, and it was a brand new mall, and I made a commitment that I was going to meet everybody that worked in the mall, that it was able to be met. And there was this guy that was with me that wanted to go to lunch. He says, so you're now going to stick around the mall and introduce yourself? And I said, yep. So I went into this department store, and I went over and I said hi, and I looked for something that was authentically something I could congratulate the person or thank the person for. I didn't want anything that was made up. I just wanted to go, the way this is organized and laid out, that's really appealing. And I said, hi, I'm so-and-so. And I told him I'm everybody's doctor, whatever. And I memorized his name, and I literally would get that name and what he did and find out who he is. Then I'd go to another department, and I'd talk to them and meet them. And I said, yeah, I was just talking to so-and-so, and you probably know so-and-so from this department. And they assumed that that person was a patient. But I was just meeting them and talking to people.
Yeah.
Well, within a week, I had 11 of those patients. 11 people came in as patients to my office because I cared and I wanted to know about the things, and I listened to their needs. And I found that was the most effective, the grassroots to start. And I found that was still the protocol today. So I think being yourself and caring and being willing to do the work. People want a quick fix, and they want an easy success. And in my experiences, the people that put the hours in, I think it was Gladwell that said you need 10,000 hours. In the breakthrough experience, just the one program, I put in 35,000 hours now. Just that one program. And so I don't mind putting the hours in. I feel that doing something that you love to do, it's something you love to doing anyway. And I think that people can sense and differentiate you from somebody that's just doing a quick facade. So I think authenticity, whether it be social media or any media or just live, I think still pays off.